Well, welcome everyone. This is episode 69, and I'm so excited. I've got my next guest. I know last week we had Jenna and we talked about the Misheard song lyric with Rocky Horror Picture Show. Well, we finally got him, my husband, Tim, and of course, episode 69. So you're listening to Misheard song lyrics, and we're going to be talking about, I've learned so much about this song. It's extreme song called Get the Funk Out. But the Misheard song lyric sounds like, if you don't like what you see here, get the F out. And the actual supposed lyrics, correct lyrics, is, if you don't like what you see here, get the funk out. And then throughout the song, they pepper it with, get the funk out, get the funk out. So we'll talk about this song, what we know of Extreme, because I only knew about their other famous song. I didn't even know this song was actually out there, and about a little bit about Tim and about the video. So let's get started. So Extreme, Tim, explain to the listeners and also those that are paying extra to see us on video, what, you know, when you first heard this, why you thought, because it does sound like it's saying get the F out.
Well, it's kind of funny how it all started. I was riding with a friend named Dan. I think he's since passed away from us. I'm not sure. But anyways, he used to give me shit about it, and we would be sitting there listening to it, and I said, no, it's get the fuck out, not the funk out. And then he started singing it, and he goes, yeah, it kind of goes with it, but it's still funk, and we got this big argument about it, so it just kind of went downhill from there. So we drank more beer, and I said, I'm going to say fuck, because it sure sounds like fuck to me. They got away with a lot of stuff in that particular verse.
Yeah, so I mean, you can imagine back in the 80s or early 90s, for them to be able to have airplay, they changed it, but we all know what...
They didn't change it. They added, if you listen to it really close...
Oh, it sounds like they're saying the F word.
It's borderline.
Yeah, for sure.
It's freaking borderline.
So everyone, when I said Extreme, does that band name ring any bells? Well, when Tim shared it with me, I'm like, wait a minute, I've never heard this song, but I know Extreme is well known for their song they did back in, I think, the 90s, and it was More Than Words. And that song, which is a ballad, actually did really well. And I knew that they could sing and definitely play, but I'd never heard this side of them. So I did a little bit more research, and it's actually an American rock band that was fronted by the lead singer Gary Sharon and guitarist Nuno Betancourt, which I guess when I did a lot of search on Nuno, a lot of famous guitarists, and we'll talk about in a bit, a little bit later, but thought he's one of the best guitarists out there. So that was another new thing I didn't know about Extreme.
He had some really good riffs.
Yeah. And so a little about a band. So the band reached the height of their popularity in the late 80s, early 90s. And the original lineup was Gary Sharon, lead singer. And remember, More Than Words was More Than Words. You know, that song? Well, this is who we're talking about. And Paul Geary and Patrick Badger. And they actually released 5 studio albums, 2 EPs in Japan, and 2 compilation albums since their formation. And like I said, they were big mostly in the 90s, but the beginning part of it is, you want to know a little bit about how they started and how they became?
Well, the funny thing is, I think that all headbangers out there can relate to this, is that the one that really made them big was Get the Funk Out on the headbanger side as compared to the ballad side. Because that's all I remember about them. I never really listened to anything else, because I guess I liked, you know, the fact that they were saying get the fuck out instead of funk, and they were kind of playing screw you, you know, FCC.
Yeah, so again, Extreme, known for what I knew as More Than Words, but Tim and Headbangers, supposedly know this. If you have not seen the video, Google it. Good video. In fact, the video, actually, when I first saw it, I thought, is that Anthony Kiedis from Red Hot Chili Pepper? Because he kind of looks like him, especially with the, remember guys, the overalls with one, you know, undone, and he's wearing a bowler's hat, and he looks like Anthony Kiedis. So I'm like, kind of Red Hot Chili Pepper. There's some zoot suits. There's some awesome riffs, funk riffs, of course, get the funk out, and a little person.
The funny thing about it is that's the only video on MTV that I remember. Get the Funk Out. I don't remember seeing the rest of it. I've heard the song that she's referencing to, but it didn't really, register with me at the time.
Interesting.
I must have been really hammered that night.
I
or
think you
like
were.
That.
So, okay, the history
I
about...
don't remember too much about that night.
So the history of Extreme is started in 85. So they actually started back in Malden, Massachusetts. And vocalist Gary Sharon, who I said, wonderful voice, and drummer Paul Geary were in a band called The Dream. So Extreme was the evolution of Sharon and Gary's former band, The Dream, meaning extreme. Extreme! That's extreme. So that's how they got the name. They brought in guitarist Nuno Betancourt because he was in a band called Sinful. And then bassist Pat Badger was playing in a Berkeley-based act called In the Pink. So they all joined in 1985, followed by Badger. And of course, that's when magic happened, becoming Extreme or Extreme. And then Sharon and Betancourt began writing songs together, and the band performed in the New England area at that time. They grew a large following and were named actually Outstanding Hard Rock Heavy Metal Act at the Boston Music Awards in 86 and 87, and started to get, more airplay, and people started to see who they were. And the band had several original songs by the time A&R director Brian Huttenhauer signed them to A&M Records in 1987, which now, for those of you music nerds, I didn't know this, was sold to Polygram in 1988. And that's when they recorded their self-titled album, which was issued in March of 1989. The first single was called Kid Ego. It's a song that Sharon would later admit makes him cringe. So he doesn't care for it. And then the final track of the album, Play With Me, was used on the mall chase song in the film Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So watch it, because I guess they use it. So now you can imagine, so they're gelling as a group. They're getting, they got signed by A&M Records, and now one of their songs is being used in, a pretty big movie at that time. What they hit big was the 1990 to 93. They had their second album, which called Extreme 2 Pornograffiti. And sales of that became,
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, Pornograffiti. I love that. Yeah. And it worked. It said Sales Extreme's first record was sufficient to support a second release. And then they actually worked with a guy named Michael Wegner, who previously worked with Dokken and White Lion, was hired to produce the band's Extreme 2 Pornograffiti album in 1990. And then what happened was the record, which showed off Sharon's lyrics and Betancourt's awesome guitar playing, was a mixture of funk, pop, glam metal sounds called Decadence Dance. And Get the Funk Out was released as singles.
Yeah, but the funny thing is Poison was kind of like that in a way.
Yeah.
But if you look at Poison and some of their album covers in relationship to Extreme's porn one, Poison kind of put the female on the front of it, and they got a whole shitload of backlash on that one. And then I'm surprised that Extreme didn't get any backlash on some of their stuff in the way they...
I think they were just kind of under the radar. Like I said, I only knew them in the pop world of that one duet. So what happened was Get the Funk Out reached number 19 in the UK charts in June of 91. So again, that's why I didn't know about it, but it did really well in the UK, and then obviously you heard about it. But they said neither single was actually successful in the US. However, the album had fallen off the charts when A&M sent the third single to a number of US radio stations, because usually it starts in England and they kind of bring it over. It's the acoustic ballad More Than Words that entered the Hot 100 on March 23rd, 1991 at number 81, and later became a smash hit at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the United States. And that's how I know it, because if you guys have seen the video, it's, I think, Betancourt and Sharon singing in black and white next to each other, and just a beautiful ballad. That's how I know it. And actually, as of when I checked this in November, the views of More Than Words in YouTube, their video More Than Words was actually posted on 11/22/09, and from then and now there's about 503 million views just on that More Than Words alone.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Get the Funk Out isn't as high as the ballad is, which is kind of weird,
but we're talking about it, and so more people might bring that up.
Come on, headbangers. Pull your heads out of your ass and get it together.
Now, the cool thing is, I kind of alluded to, there were some famous people that just love Nunez's awesome guitar playing. So they actually were asked to appear at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert back in April of 1992. and they got a lot of exposure from it beyond the heavy metal, you know, world that Tim knows about. They played a medley of the tribute as well as Love of My Life, I love that song, and More Than Words acoustically. So they did the Queen song, Love of My Life, and then More Than Words. And then at the introductory speech, Brian May, so famous Queen guitarist, well-known guitarist, was noted that they were, quote unquote, this is what he said, possibly more than any other group on this planet, the people that understand exactly what Queen have been about all these years and what Freddie was all about these years. So he felt, Brian May felt that Extreme and their vibe and the way they work were close to what Queen was about. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
No, but it doesn't surprise me because they are kind of along the lines of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, and great vocals, right? And great guitar play.
Yeah.
Well, then they start hitting on hard times. After the More Than Words success, all the other songs didn't do so well. And so, of course, the band started to kind of like break apart. And then what happened was, on the recommendation of their former Extreme manager by the name of Ray Daniels, in 1996, the lead singer of Extreme, or Extreme, now we know how the name came about, Gary Cherone actually joined Van Halen. Did you know that?
That I didn't know.
A short time, just in 1996. So at this moment, that's what they said. So Van Halen's fan base stayed with them, you know, with David Lee Roth from 1974 to 85.
That's
Sammy Hagar fronted them in 1985, and then into this whole thing entered Cherone, whom guitarist Eddie Van Halen, rest his soul.
Yeah, but Sammy was still with Van Halen even until 92 because my son hadn't been born yet.
Right, but...
And he went to a Van Halen concert.
Right, but in this time, so whatever, they brought in Cherone from Extreme, whom, like I said, guitarist Eddie Van Halen, again, bless his soul, because he's passed away just recently, later called a musical soulmate. So he really loved this lead singer. But then... in 1998, Cherone fronted Van Halen's release of Van Halen 3. That's the name of the album. And, you know, it was more experimental acoustic, which they thought bringing in Cherone would be great. It reached number 4 on the Billboard Top 200 album charts and sold over 500,000 copies, which sounds amazing. However, by Van Halen standards of selling, it was a failure.
Yeah, but Sammy took Van Halen to where David Lee Roth couldn't do it. You know, because with Sammy there, he made them big. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so interesting. I didn't even know that he was part of it. And so for just a short moment, lead singer of Extreme, Gary Cherone, was fronted Van Halen. And then all I could find that was written about it is it didn't do so well. And in late 1999, after Van Halen's second album with Cherone, he was supposedly like, hey, it's not going to work. And so he left Van Halen. The other thing to note, too, about this group, Extreme, is back on June 25th of 2019, there is a New York Times magazine listed that Extreme was one of hundreds of artists whose material was reportedly destroyed in the 2008 Universal fire. So the Universal Studios had a fire. I didn't know this.
Yeah, I remember that.
So on June, so let me just tell you what happened. So on June 1, 2008, a fire broke out at the back lot of Universal Studios Hollywood. And it's a theme park. If you've not been there, I've been there many times with Jaws coming out. And it's in LA, of course. The fire began when a worker used a blowtorch to warm asphalt shingles that were being applied to a facade or a fake design set. Well, it caught on fire. He left, so we know it's a he, before checking all spots had cooled, and a 3-alarm fire broke out. 9 firefighters and a Los Angeles County Sheriff deputy sustained minor injuries. And the fire was completely extinguished, but after 24 hours. And at that time, Universal Pictures claimed that the fire destroyed a 3-acre portion of the Universal backlot, including the attraction King Kong Encounter, never been to that, and 40,000 to 50,000 archived digital video and film copies. Yeah. Ooh. And so part of that was some of Extreme's material. Did you know that?
I knew there was a big fire, and I knew they were talking about it and stuff like that. I just didn't.
Tim has a call as we're doing our podcast here. Anyway, yeah, so I didn't know about the fire, and it was interesting to find out about that as well. So lots we've found out about Extreme. Not that their only well-known song, More Than Words, it's all right, More Than Words, but also that they have this wonderful, funky song called Get the Funk Out or Get the F Out. So that's the Misheard song lyric for episode 69. And last but not least, I'm so excited to have my husband here. You guys don't understand if you don't know Tim. He does not like to do these kinds of things. But I'm excited he's here on episode 69.
Of all things.
Of all things. Tim, what else do you want the listeners and those that are watching us on video to know?
I don't know if anybody knows this, but when Robert Plant went out on his own, he actually did a couple of songs that were on his end. I can't remember the name of the album, but when he was out on his own, he did some kind of like dance songs at the end of his album on CD. But if you haven't heard of Extreme, I'd say listen to them. They're actually really good.
Well, yeah, exactly. Most of us know the More Than Words ballad, but check out all their other songs, especially Get the Funk Out. And if you want to do a Google search on the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, you will see them perform that as well, and you can see.
When you listen to Extreme and Get the Funk Out, the first two funks are okay, but if you hear the rest of it, it borderlines on violations. It's pretty awesome, I think. And, you know, any way of getting away with saying fuck, you know.
Anyway, that's why we're here talking about it. So hopefully you learned something new. You also learned that the amazing Gary Cherone was the man behind the vocals, as well as guitarist Nuno Betancourt. I guess he's beloved by Van Halen as well as Brian May. So those are two big, you know, folks, Eddie Van Halen, that know their stuff. And if they're saying he's an awesome guitarist, then I need to look into more of Mr. Nuno Betancourt. I hope you learned a lot. Again, please send us any info or any questions or ideas for podcasts after this. We're at Misheard, that's MISSHEARD, songs@gmail.com. You can also send us stuff at our Misheard podcast Facebook, tweet us, and also Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. And again, please keep singing those songs wrong. Bye!
See you later. Have a good one.